Yeah, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got quite a crew of members of Teamsters Local 320 with us to hear you today, and we're going to have a few people that will have questions for you. Hopefully, we've got the time to do that. We know you all are busy at the legislature today, so we'll move through this. I want to go ahead and introduce you now, if that works, and we'll get the ball rolling. Speaker Hortman has been a real friend of the Teamsters and fighter of K-12 education and public investments in higher education. This is her second term as Speaker of the Minnesota House, as she serves Brooklyn Park and Coon Rapids as a state legislator. Under Speaker Hortman's leadership, House DFL budget targets that will assist those most impacted by COVID-19, our school employees, essential workers, students, and small businesses. The DFL budget raises progressive revenue to fund the priorities that Minnesotans value and help them weather what's left of the COVID-19 pandemic. Minnesotans deserve a budget that will help them recover and to continue to thrive. Madam Speaker, today we have with us administrative service faculty from the Minnesota State University system, assistant public defenders, dispositional advisors, investigators, paralegals, and other support staff from the State Board of Public Defense. We also have with us from the University of Minnesota, service workers, county workers, and school district employees today. So Teamsters Local 320 members, please join us in welcoming Speaker Hortman.
Well,
thank you so much for having me. It's nice to see all of you. I don't need to tell you, this is just such a difficult time in Minnesota. I think from when COVID struck to the aftermath of George Floyd's death to now a new tragedy in Brooklyn Center, and us again dealing with things like curfews and violence. And I just want to say, as the leader of the Minnesota House right now, that my heart aches for all of us. I think there's just so much trauma and pain, and I absolutely revere the law enforcement professionals for the work that they do, and at the same time, I know that we have to do better, and we have communities of color that we have to do better by. So I think two things can be true at the same time, and I think they are, which is that we're all in this together, and we appreciate each other, and we want the best for each other. So that is making, I think, everything that we're trying to do in our personal and work lives harder, and so much more so for us at the state capitol right now. We are doing the best we can to hear all of the voices on all aspects of these issues, the challenge of improving law enforcement and creating racial justice and respecting those who wear the badge and respect human and constitutional rights every day. But this is all getting inserted into the budget conversation, and the budget is really the focus of this year when we come together in the odd numbered years. It's our job to craft a 2-year budget for the state of Minnesota. And the Democrats in the House have proposed to raise and spend $52.5 billion. And we think that the way that we spend that money will have a dramatic impact on the quality of life for people across the state. And our concern is to make sure that people who have had a rougher time going through COVID-19 get the help that they need, whether that is workers on the front lines or families or students or small businesses that are having a tough time. And we know that Minnesota was one of the most inequitable states in the country before COVID-19, and it is just really, COVID-19 has shown a spotlight on all those inequities. So what we want is a budget that sets us up to do better when COVID-19 is over. It's not about recover and rebuild. I think this is why we talk about building back better. And one of my friends in government says, you know, Melissa Hortman was saying build back better before Joe Biden was saying build back better. But we don't want what we had before. We want it to be better. We want it to be more fair, and especially in Minnesota. And we did not ask to be at the epicenter of police race relations in the country, but we are there. And so we have a responsibility to do this work, this incredibly hard work, in a way that makes us more united, and a state that people around the country look at and don't say, oh, there's a trial going on there, or oh, there was a killing there, or oh, there's you know, extreme violence at a police department there. We want people to look at Minnesota and say, that's where I want to live to raise my family, because whether I'm Black, white, Indigenous, that my kids will have a great education, I will have a great job, and it'll be a nice community to be part of. So that's our challenge this year. It's really feels like just when we might be starting to put the last tragedy in the rearview mirror, we have another one, and we just all have to rise up and be better than we ever were before, at listening to each other and not regarding any other person, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat or person of color or a police officer, as our enemy, but as people that we're in this together with, and that we can make a better state with. So happy to answer any questions you have.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your leadership. You know, well said. We support you, and you know, we've got a few questions, and the first person I would like to introduce is a legal office assistant in the 4th Judicial District for the State Board of Public Defense, and her name is Andrea Anderson.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, Madam Speaker. I'm with Legal Office Assistant in the 4th District, and I've been with the Board of Public Defense for 8 years. Thank you for supporting public defense employees and fully funding the state public defender budget. Unfortunately, the Senate only funds 2/3 of the budget request. What can we do between now and the end of session to ensure public defense is fully funded? Thank you.
Yeah, I would say for all of your members to make sure to write to both their House member and their senator to say that this is an important issue and it has to be fully funded in the final budget deal. Because it may be that there are Democrats in the House who don't know as much about this as our friends on the Judiciary Committee, and who aren't as familiar with how important this is. So we want every single member who can know about it to know about it. And the same with the Senate. So I think deploying your membership, it might not seem like writing an email makes that much of a difference, but believe me, it makes a difference. We're all addicted to these devices. We're all looking at them constantly, and we instantly know if there's somebody from our district writing in about something. So that makes a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, an employee of Winona State University and the Administrative Service Faculty Statewide President, Tracy Rahim.
Thank you so much, and welcome, Madam Speaker. We're so pleased to be able to speak with you briefly today, and thank you for all of your support and your leadership in the House right now. I'm here to ask about some of the budgets that are being proposed in the House and the Senate in terms of, excuse me, public higher education. There seems to be a belief among some of the legislators that the one-time federal COVID relief dollars are the Band-Aid needed to avoid raising tuition. We know right now there's a House file going through Ways and Means that would freeze tuition for 2 years, and then the Senate is actually proposing a decrease of 5% of tuition. But all of this is only going to lead to further budget crises on our campuses very soon. So what can we do to ensure that our campuses receive the state funding necessary to maintain the critical services for our students if tuition freeze is not funded by the legislature?
Yeah, good question. Chair Bernardi was talking to me about this, and we were talking about how important the difference is between a funded tuition freeze and a not funded tuition freeze. And I actually spoke with some students in the student governments from the higher education institutions, and we talked about how it's easy to say that you're for a tuition freeze if you don't fund it, and then that results in a lower education experience for the students, less faculty, fewer services, fewer choices in courses and all that. And that's not what we're talking about. So Chair Bernardi attempts to have in her bill, and I'm hoping she succeeded, with a fully funded tuition freeze, because we kind of have a law in the Democratic caucus that you are not allowed to talk about freezing tuition unless you're fully funding it, so that there's no decrease in services to students. But we definitely see the cliff coming with the federal funding. So while in the next 2 years, we've got that $500 million fund that will be distributed across the state. And our budget target walks back a little from what we would otherwise be giving to higher education if that 500 million federal money wasn't there, on top of the other installments of the CARES Act and coronavirus funds that have come through. But we propose to raise taxes to make sure that that commitment is there in the future. So when the federal money is gone, that the tax revenue comes in and backs that up. And we'll be working hard with the Senate to make sure that we have a secure funding into the future. And that will be a real challenge for me and the governor in global negotiations, is to make sure that we don't allow the Senate to take a posture that would hurt us years down the road. The budget we think of that's in front of us is not just 22 and 23, but we think about 24 and 25 as well.
Thank you. It does not appear that it's a funded tuition freeze from what we can see coming out of House Higher Ed. So if there's anything that you can do to help make sure that happens, if a tuition freeze is what is going to be on the table, we would really appreciate that support.
Yes, definitely, for sure. We will not call it a tuition freeze if it's not, or we'll take that language out if we're not giving the system enough money to do it.
Thank you, Tracy. I hope we've got time for one more question. We also have a question from teaching assistant, a special ed teaching assistant with St. Paul Public Schools, Russell Packard.
Yes, I wish to share my deepest appreciation to you, Speaker Hortman, for your support of Representative Greenman's bill, HF 1054. As Brian Aldes said, I am a special education assistant in the St. Paul Public Schools, where I've been employed for 7 years. In addition to helping with classroom management, I currently have a caseload of 8 emotional behavioral disordered students for whom I provide essential services. To make this personal, I love my job and frequently receive messages of thanks and appreciation from parents, teachers, and administrators. Yet, as a single father and a low-wage hourly worker, I struggle to make ends meet and provide for my daughter with economic security. My situation became desperate last year when my summer job with the district was canceled due to COVID. I was absolutely shocked when our state denied me benefits because I work in education. Yet, as mandated by law, I have been contributing to the unemployment insurance program for over 50 years, beginning with my first job at age 14. How can this be just? As you know, not providing unemployment insurance benefits to hourly wage workers in education who are temporarily laid off and are unable to find work is discriminatory. It is the TA staff in our school that really contributes the greatest diversity to our faculty. Further, it causes great harm to the students who rely on a stable, well-trained, and experienced workforce. I appreciate so much that you have not only supported Greenman's bill, but also worked to include it in the House Workforce and Business Development Omnibus Bill. However, it appears to have stalled in the Senate. What can I and the Teamsters do to help you support this passage of this bill?
Yeah, same advice I gave to Ms. Anderson, is to make sure every single House member and Senate member who have local 320 members in their district know about this issue. And I'm hoping that's everybody. And that they know that this is something that has to be taken care of. You know, I'm optimistic on this one. It's a big policy change, but it seems really long overdue. It's also an equity issue. And the American Rescue Plan funding does put some things on the table that weren't on the table before. We do have quite a bit of federal money coming in. And so I think that there's a way to get this done.
It would be great. That would be really helpful. And I am ready. And I think many of us at Teamsters are ready to go to bat because so many of our TAs really suffer every summer looking for these jobs in the summer. And then we're unemployed. And if not, then you get new unqualified, untrained workers coming in the next year, the teachers, the kids, especially our special education kids. They don't know the new TAs. It takes them half a year to get to know them. It creates a mess and hurts everybody. And it's so wrong. Teaching used to be, as you know, a non-profession. It used to be just volunteer people that had, you know, mostly mothers that could stay at home. It was unions that made teaching a profession. Well, we now need to rise to take this a step further. And I know you support this. It would be so helpful if we could get a list of actually targeted representatives that are persuadable on this issue, so that we can get these votes and make real action. There are many of us ready to go hard.
Hey, Russell, we've got the information on the Senate side. We, like you mentioned to Speaker Hortman, we have the support of the DFL caucus on the House side. It's going to be the Senate side that we believe will have the most significant challenges, and we will get our members in touch with their senators on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really want to underscore, I'm glad you recognize that it is, if you look at our staff, especially in the St. Paul Public Schools, we want a diversified staff, but it is the TA staff that diversifies our school, unfortunately, because of the way our systems are working so far. And it's a step to move from TAs to become teachers. We need to support our TAs. If you want.
Russell, thank you so much for your words and very, very well said. Speaker Hortman, Teamsters Local 320 represents, you know, roughly 2,000 employees in K-12 education throughout the state of Minnesota, and probably half of them come out of the, or maybe even a little bit more than half come out of the metro area, St. Paul Public Schools, and Minneapolis as well. I'm going to turn it back over to Gus.
Oh, I would just ask that Speaker Hortman provide some closing remarks. Those were the top issues that we wanted to share today. We really appreciate your support of the folks who are in law enforcement and the folks in the communities that want change and deserve change. And thanks for addressing that at the very beginning of this discussion. That's phenomenal. And you know, Ed and you and I have had discussions about you know, law enforcement and what we can do together going forward to make sure that you know, law enforcement continues to be an excellent profession, but also make sure that people have faith in their law enforcement.
Yep, and I really appreciate what union leaders bring to this conversation, because really this is about having strong public employees that make our state a much better place. And I will take with me these great stories from folks from the public defender's office and higher education and the special education assistant, but all folks in your job class. These are areas of the budget and professions that are really close to our heart in the DFL, because we know you're underpaid for the work that you do, and we know how important the work that you do is, and that again, that the federal money gives us an opportunity to reach back and to reach forward and to provide a little bit of earnings justice where we can. And I'm optimistic that we might be able to find some agreement with Republicans because of the federal money. It makes it easier to spend. You know, it's here, right? It's not a question about whether we raise somebody's taxes. It's here. And I think they know that people have been hurting. So help us tell the story. Help us communicate to folks on both sides of the aisle. Make sure your DFLers who support you on these issues know that they support you and that their positions that they've taken on this legislation is important to you, because, and also the governor. I mean, I think that we really owe him an incredible debt of gratitude for literally working around the clock for more than a year now. And I think it's easy for us to all focus, because the public policy world invites this, on things we need to fix, but we also need to say thank you for the things that are going well. And I think the governor's work to protect Minnesotans by and large is going very well. And although we can all quibble around the edges, I think he needs to hear a lot of gratitude as he continues to carry this tough burden on behalf of all of us.
You know, Madam Speaker, if I can just say a few words before you leave, you know, we owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude also. Your leadership has been second to none. And, you know, if there's anything people can do, is make sure that Melissa Hortman continues to be the Speaker of the House, and that we find a way to get a labor majority in the Senate. Madam Speaker, from everything you've done, from meeting with us today, and it's incredibly busy right now, we understand that. But, you know, the work you did last year and this year on the presumption of on-the-job injuries for workers in frontline positions and so forth. I mean, it's your dedication to working men and women has been spectacular. So I just want to personally thank you, publicly thank you for everything you do, and the leadership qualities that you have are just amazing. So thank you on behalf of all Teamsters across Minnesota.
I really appreciate that. So Mark Dayton was wrong. He said, you know, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. But I'd say also work with your brothers and sisters in labor. So it's good to have non-canine friends. So thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.